There's one thing that every single person needs to have in their financial plan, and that is an emergency fund. We want to talk to you today about something that's been on our mind a lot lately, and that is emergency funds. But before we delve into the topic, let us share our personal reasons why this has become super important to us right now.
Yeah.
A little less than 4 weeks ago, I fell. I broke my arm right at the top here into 3 pieces. The doctor told us from the very beginning, we're looking at 3 months for the bone to completely heal and 6 months of physical therapy. And we knew that we were going to have to dig into our emergency fund.
There are a lot of financial planners that talk about an emergency fund. And here's the thing about an emergency fund that oftentimes we just don't think about. You're going to need it when you have no idea that you're going to need it. Usually an emergency comes around the corner very unexpectedly. So this is a good thing to have in place. Now, our good friend Dave Ramsey recommends having $1,000 for an emergency fund. We recommend having at least 2, but we have several months of emergency funds saved up.
For the purposes of this video, we're going to talk about that larger, fully funded emergency fund. 3 to 6 months of all of your basic expenses. That is a fully funded emergency fund. Now, let's just say you've tried to save an emergency fund before and thought, I just haven't been able to take that step. I've not been able to do it. Or maybe you've had an emergency fund and like us, you unexpectedly have had to use it and it's depleted and you're trying to rebuild it. No matter which camp you're in, you're going to find some super great strategies in this video. Before we get started, I would love to know in the comments section, do you have an emergency fund? Talk to us about it down in the comments. Interestingly, I posed that exact same question on our Instagram account. And by the way, if you don't follow us on Instagram, go over to Instagram. I'll make sure there's a link for our Instagram account in the description of this video. We're over on Instagram several times a week, and we drop really, really short, really significant tips over there on a very regular basis. So one of the things that somebody commented, though, was, well, that's why you have insurance. Yes, we have insurance, but insurance does not cover everything.
No.
We knew immediately, even starting out of the gate, on the way to the hospital, to the ER room, that we were going to dig in at least $1,250. Why? Because that's our individual deductible.
That's right.
And our deductible is incredibly low. We have looked at other insurance policies and the deductible is generally much, much higher than that. You have to have enough in your emergency fund to cover those deductibles. And you have to remember, not every single thing is going to be covered by your insurance policy.
I was going to say, there's going to be other expenses that will show up also unexpectedly when you have an emergency that you'll need the money for. So no matter how you slice it or look at it, you need money in order to go through a very difficult time. And if this is one of the first times that you've watched us on Under the Median, I'm Larry.
And I'm Hope.
And as I mentioned, we're from Under the Median, where every week we bring you videos on practical frugality.
All right, what are they going to do first?
Well, the very first thing, and we've mentioned this on previous videos, that we recommend is automate your savings. Now, that means within your savings plan on your bank, you need to have some accounts set up where money is automatically moved out of your checking account, which is the one that you use to work from, into maybe 1 or 2 different savings accounts that you've set aside for this specific purpose.
Yeah, if your bank or credit union lets you have a sub-account, which is also under your name, that's a great place to stash your emergency fund. But before you start just arbitrarily saying, oh, we've got an extra $100, let's put it in there every month, you have to know how much you need. You have to know what your basic living expenses are for 1 month. Then you multiply that by 3 or 6. Because if you just start stashing money there, you don't have a benchmark. You don't know exactly what constitutes your 3 to 6 month emergency fund. So you need to do that first and know exactly how much you're saving. And then we would go a step further. As you're automating those amounts of money going in every month to that emergency fund, set a goal date. Just huge, huge way to make sure that you continue on the progress that you're making is to make sure you have a date written down that you are following to make sure that you are getting that funded or refunded.
And if you don't have a lot of money, let's say you don't have a lot of extra money in from your paycheck, at least start saving a small
Absolutely.
amount. Even a small amount adds up over time to an amount that you probably will be able to work with.
That is at its heart, of course, what frugality is all about.
That's right.
Small amounts of money saved over a long period of time are
Yes.
equal to large amounts of money. All right, here's the next tip, and that is to cut unnecessary expenses. We are the proclivity to believe that all of us included, tend to have some expenses that we're doing every single month that are really not necessary. They're just hanging around and they're there because we can afford them, right? And because we're just doing it every month. Go through your budget with a fine-tooth comb and find those areas where you're spending unnecessary money. Now, if you need some help doing that, we're huge fans of what we call the 10% challenge. This is unique to us. We invented it years ago and we do it frequently. And that's where we sit down with our budget and we dialogue and brainstorm ways that we can cut each of those categories back by just 10%. We've had a lot of viewers do it quite successfully and found over $1,000 every year in their expenses that they can cut back.
Just a simple example of one area that you can cut would be your subscription services. If you're subscribed to Amazon Prime or you're subscribed to Netflix, you might want to rethink, do I really have to have those items to be entertained? Is there another way that I can be entertained for a lot less money? Like maybe your library, which has a pretty good reserve of movies on hand that you can borrow for free.
And books. It's amazing.
Yes.
Libraries have books too, guys. I'm just saying. But here's a subscription that isn't going to cost them any money, and that is to subscribe to Under the Median. Did you see how I just did that?
like
Just
that.
went right into that.
Just
All right. Guys, if you're not subscribed to Under the Median, hit that subscribe button and hit the bell notification. Do us another favor while you're up in that area. Hit that thumbs up button because that helps us with the YouTube algorithm.
Yes, hit the like button if you're liking the content in this video. Of course, the whole purpose of cutting back now would be to add that money to your emergency fund so you can start building that up. Make sure the extra money is going into that account.
Next tip is to sell unused items. Once again, we all have stuff that's just sitting on shelves. When was the last time you touched that thing or needed that thing? If it's been a period of time, perhaps you really don't need that thing, whatever it is, sitting on your shelf, and you can resell that. And somebody would love to buy that from you. Now, Larry, and I've said this before, is the king of reselling. He does it really, really well.
Well, one of the things I do in reselling is that I look up other items that are listed that are also on whatever venue you happen to be using, whether it's Marketplace or eBay or whatever it happens to be. Look on those venues and see what items very similar to yours is going for, and then market your item for maybe just a little bit less than the going rate, and they'll be attracted to what you have for sale. Make sure your item is cleaned up, it's in good condition, check it out, make sure it's working properly, describe all of that in the description of that item to let them know that they're bidding on a really good item that's going to serve them well.
Oh, there's lots of different places where you can sell used items.
Oh, yeah.
You can sell on eBay. You can sell on Marketplace. If Marketplace is your jam and you want more information about how to successfully sell items for top dollar on Marketplace, we did a whole video on it, and Larry gave you his very best tips. We're going to make sure that that video, guys, is linked up above and in the description of this video.
Another strategy that you can use for saving money toward your emergency fund is to get a side hustle or another job that goes with your main job so you can have additional income that you're putting in. Once again, make sure that that income isn't just being allocated toward fun and having a good time. Make sure that that's going toward your emergency fund. Now, we all have skills. Some people have some hidden skills that most other people don't have, that you can do things that other people would need, a service that you can provide. And trying to find what that might be and market that on the internet so that other people can find you and use what you have in order to sell for them.
Now, of course, another thing you can do is just make the most of the job that you already do have. You can let your boss know that you're willing to work some overtime. You can also work that overnight shift, because sometimes that third shift comes with a little bump in salary, a little premium, and you might want to pick up some third shift work instead of your traditional maybe first or second shift work. But there's always ways to try to do what you're already doing and make even more money doing it.
The next item of usefulness will be tracking your spending. It doesn't do any good to have a budget unless you know exactly where your money is going, what areas of your budget are requiring what amounts of money. Once you've tracked your spending, you have a really good handle on how much you're going to need in that emergency fund.
So how is tracking your spending going to help you either save up or replenish that emergency fund? Because once again, you have to keep your finger on the pulse. Because we are creatures of habit. I am telling you, we are. And you will find yourself falling back into those habits where you were overspending in certain areas. And the only way to know that you're doing it is to look at it in the face, on paper, the actual numbers, and know that, oops, I overspent in that area, and I can cut back in that area and make sure that that goes toward the emergency fund.
Make sure that you're looking at your groceries, your transportation, your utilities. Look at those very carefully and identify things in there that you're overspending on that you don't need to do. There's lots of ways around your house that you can lower your utilities and have some money coming in there that you didn't have before. And we found that there's a lot of ways you can save money on groceries by doing different things like buying generic instead of name brands, using Aldi's instead of maybe Kroger's or other big stores to buy your groceries at, which would be cheaper. But find ways in your budget to save money so that you can have that extra going into that emergency fund.
What we're saying is consistency and discipline.
Yeah.
Those are the two keys to not only replenishing or plenishing your emergency fund. Those are the keys to long-term consistency when it comes to frugality and saving money over time. Now, if consistency is something you kind of struggled with in the past, and maybe you've been frugal and kind of fallen off the frugal wagon, or maybe it's something you'd really like to institute in your life, we did a whole video on it where we gave you 10 key components that you can embrace in your weekly and monthly life that is going to help you to stay more consistent with your financial goals and also with your frugality. That video, we think it'll be super helpful for you. It's right over there. There is one thing that every single person needs to have in their financial plan,
and that's a mouth that speaks.